Hello everyone, welcome to BIM Training PH YouTube channel. Our topic for this tutorial is about how to properly use the selection tool here in Revit. Now I created a three topics that we'll be discussing regarding the selection tool. And then I also created a timestamp sa baba ng YouTube tutorial na ito so that you can also see the subtopics of this tutorial so that if ever you'll have to go back, madali lang kayo makakabalik kung saan nyo gustong topic na gusto nyong balikan or i-review. Now let's discuss them each. For the focusing of the elements for navigation purposes, ito yung pinaka kailangan malaman for the beginners. So I suggest you should watch this because you can't properly use or navigate in Revit without knowing how to use the selection tool in terms of navigation. So next is the main topic natin, yung selection tools, and then the settings, the supporting topics natin for the selection tools. So now let's go to discussing the focusing elements for navigation purposes. We're now here in Revit and I use the Rack Advanced Sample project. You can also use the project that you are currently working or any other projects that you have available on your computer. For the navigation, ang kailangan nyo malaman is the two things na kailangan nyo malaman for the navigation in terms of selection. So kung saan yung cursor natin, you need to know, number one, you need to know that kung saan yung cursor natin, and if we zoom in, dun siya pupunta. Okay? So if we go right here, zoom in, dun siya pupunta. And then if we go to the building, center of the building, zoom, dun siya pupunta. Okay? So any other location kung saan nyo ilagay, dun siya pupunta. Number two is, if you want to pivot in the 3D view, if you want to pivot a certain object, for example, itong door, you need to select it first, then before you orbit. Okay, so that it will become the pivot of your orbit dito sa Revit, no? So let's say I want this to be an orbit and then hindi ko siya select una, and then if I orbit, nawawala kaagad siya sa view, no? So yan. So that's the main problem of the Revit beginners, nawawala sila sa 3D view is because they don't select first the element and then viewing, no? So usually hindi natin to ginagawa kasi sa if you use SketchUp, no? So kung saan yung zoom mo, sometimes I mean doon na siya yung revolution niya. But in Revit, we need to focus on click on the element and then pivot. Okay, so I mean click on the element so that it will be pivot and then orbit. Okay, so that's it for the focusing elements for navigation. Let's now go to selection tools. For the selection tools, we need to look at in the selection tray right here. Okay, so by the way, before I discuss these selection tools, let me discuss you about the cursor and its basic behavior. So what I mean basic behavior is that kapag ginalaw natin yung cursor natin and then if we go to objects, as you can see, kahit hindi pa natin na-click yung object or sa any element sa Revit, kung makikita nyo, nag-blue na siya. Ang tawag dyan is preselect, meaning naka-preselect siya. That means kapag we click the left click button of the mouse, it will be selected, no? So other thing to consider that kapag naka-preselect siya, let's go to the status bar. Status bar ang tawag ng area na to. It will display the properties of the element that is pre-selected. So if I go right here, as you can see, naka-preselect niya yung roof. And then if we go to status bar dito, balik ako sa pre-selection of the roof, it will display the basic information about the roof. So I know that the pre-selected elements is roof. If I go right here, the pre-selected elements now is the planting and may additional information siya about that certain planting family. Okay. So if I click on the element, of course, yan ang mga selected and it will display na the properties of the element that I selected. Okay, so that's the pre-select and the selection. So now let's discuss these five. Okay, so I mean 5 command icons. The equivalent of this command icons right here is in the ribbon, the modify, under modify command icon may select, then meron siyang drop down menu. These 5 items right here is this one. So as you can see, naka-check sa lahat kasi naka-enable sila. So dito, naka-enable sila. How to know naka-enable siya or naka-disable? So kapag naka-disable ang elements na to, if you click on that, may X siya, meaning naka-disable siya. Click, click. If you disable them all, if we go back right here, as you can see, hindi na sila naka-select. No? But if we check this all right here, as you can see, nawala na yung X nila sa taas. Okay. So the command icons of this tool, I mean of this selection tray, is it it determines or it controls how our cursor behave in terms of when we select an element. Okay, so let me start with the link. No, so for this topic, I assume that alam niyo na kung ano yung link. And if you don't, in the future or by the time that you're watching this, baka nagawa ko na yung video, you just have to go to my page and then search for the topic about Revit links. Okay, so in this instance, let me go to manage links. Wala akong naka-link na other file. Let me add one. Then I want to link the structural sample project. So now it is na-link na yung structural project. As you can see, mayroon na tayong structural foundations. If that is enabled, I can select the structural element. So as you can see, na-select ko yung structural element, and then if I isolate HI or isolate, as you can see, I can click all the structural element. Na-select sila in just one click. And then if this one, disable ko siya, I can select the element, no? So this is applicable to all Revit link, no? So sa lahat ng na-link mo na model sa iyong Revit file, if this is disabled, hindi mo sila ma-select, no? Ang advantage nito is that, for example, you are modeling architectural element and you don't want to accidentally click any structural elements or maps elements, that would be a great option so that makakapag-focus ka sa mga elements mo, kasi yung mga elements na under your modeling task, yun lang yung magiging mase-select ng cursor mo. Okay, if I enable that, mase-select na siya. Let me press HR in the keyboard para ma-view natin yung architectural element. So that's it for the select links. So how about the underlay? For the underlay, we need to go to floor plan view. And then as you can see dito sa entry level or sa ground floor, meron tayong floor deck, no? So if I go to second floor, wala na siya. So if I go to second floor, wala na siya, pero meron tayong option dito to view underlay. So if we go to properties and then underlay panel, meron tayong base level yung sa range. As of now, none, kaya wala tayong nakikitang underlay. But if we choose the entry level, as you can see, it displays the level 1. No? So if I click this, I go to 3D view, na-select yung floor natin sa level 1 kahit nasa level 2 tayo. No? So if I disable that, it will show pa din pero hindi na siya ma-select. As you can see, kahit itong table, if I click none, it won't show up. And if I click entry level, it will show up. No? Ang kagandahan nito is, hindi siya necessary na nasa baba siya ng level mo. Pwede mo din i-view yung nasa taas na level mo. So let's say I want to show the roof. So as you can see, hindi na yung cafeteria nakikita nyo, yung line na slope na ng roof. So that's the advantage here in Revit in terms of underlay. You know, you can any views in the level you can view in a specific level. So let's click none. Sorry, let's go back to entry level. So yun lang yun, no? So yan yung underlay. If we disable that one, I mean if we enable that, so masi-select na natin yung mga elements, no, on the underlay. So how about the pin? So now let's go to pinned elements. Yung pinned elements naman is that, for example, usually the element that we pinned is the grid line, no? So for example, tapos na tayong discussing the link. So let me go to manage link and then unload this file. So now for the pin, if we click on this element and then we pin it, yung command niya is pn. So you can also click this command icon under view panel and then the modify tab, view panel, click. Now it is pinned. Kung makita nyo, pag na-select natin yung elements, may lalabas na pin icon. If you click on that, then click, may lalabas na pin icon. So what that does is that if we disable that pin, select pin command icon, we can select those elements na. Okay? So, yung iba hindi naka-pin, pero yung naka-pin hindi na ma-select, no? So, it doesn't hindi lang siya necessary sa grids, pwede din siya sa objects, no? So, for example, this wall right here, let's say, for example, final na to na layout, then we pin them. So, hindi na natin sila ma-select. Yung ano na lang, yung other elements na lang. Okay, so that's the pin. If I enable the pin, we can select the pin, pero kapag ka naka-pin na, you can't delete the element unless you unpin. Okay, you can add. And now we go to the select elements by face. Select elements by face is, for example, if I hover right here, kahit walang line, as you can see, na pre-select siya, no, merong blue dito sa edge ng floor, meaning pre-selected siya, and you can also display in the status bar, the properties of the pre-selected element. So ito, floors, hollow core, plank, concrete topping. If I click, nasa-select na kagad siya. But, if we disable that, so kapag ka nasa gitna ako ng, I mean, nasa face ng floor, and then walang line na tatamaan yung cursor ko, wala akong masiselect. Unless natatamaan yung cursor ng line, click, doon pa tayo pwede makapag-click, no? So, if I go to 3D view, kapag naka-disable siya, as long as nasa face tayo, wala tayong line na tatamaan sa cursor, hindi siya ma-pre-select and we cannot click. But if tatamaan yung line, as you can see, naka-display na siya sa status bar. If we click on that, pwede na siyang i-select. Okay? So, yan yung kaibahan niya. If I enable that one, as you can see, kahit wala nakaselect na kahit hindi natin tatamaan yung line, ma-pre-select pa rin siya and then we can click on that. Okay? So, that's for the select by face element, no? So, ang kaibahan niya is, again, you can select the face of the element, any faces on each side, on any side, as long as it is face of an object, you can select. But if naka-disable siya, you need to go to the edges, no, or to see the object, the line of the object para ma-select mo siya. Okay, and then the drag elements on selection. Let's go back to first floor. So on all of these command icons, ito lang yung command or tool na gusto kong i-disable natin palagi. Ito sila, hindi ito necessary na i-disable palagi kasi meron silang mga advantage and disadvantages. Pero ito, meron siyang advantage. Pero I suggest, if you are modeling to a company na malaki yung project tapos medyo may ano na kayo, may output na like this, I suggest you should close this. I mean, you should disable this. What this does kasi kapag naka-enable siya is isang click lang natin, click, hold, and drag. Nadadrag na kagad yung element. Control Z. Click, hold, drag. Namumove kagad siya. So, sometimes kasi when we are modeling, may mga elements talaga tayo na kiniklik. No? So, sometimes ma-accident siya na masali sa pag-drag. So, I suggest na disable natin siya para pag click, hold, move na mouse, hindi siya ma-drag. Unless ma-drag lang siya kapag klinik natin and then binitawan natin yung pag-click, klinik natin uli and then doon pa tayo nag-hold, then move. Doon pa siya mag-move, no? So it adds uh, a certain amount of work or certain it adds a process, no, para hindi siya ma-accidentally move. Intentional talaga yung pagkaka-move niya. Okay, so that's it for the selection tools. Now let's go to settings. No, so for the settings, let's go to options, key S. The key S command in the keyboard is keyboard shortcut. Let's press option. And then in the options application menu, yung options application menu, click on this area right here. Sa inyo, I think wala pa tong command. Click on that and then dito sa press new key, press 0. Then click assign. Now, sa akin naka-assign na siya. So I just click OK. Then if I press 0, it will show the options window, no? So you can also go to the options window by clicking the file and then in the window, after clicking the file, dito sa lower right corner, may options button dyan. So you can click on that. Dito pa rin siya pupunta. Okay? So on the settings, where we need to go is in the interface tab and then under the double click. So part pa din to ng selection options, click customize. By default, nakaano siya, nakaset into edit family, edit type, edit element. By default, this is the setting. We will focus on the family and then sketch element. So by default, ito yung options nila. No? What this does is that kapag ka nag-double click tayo ng family, it will open the family editor and then kapag ka nag-double click tayo ng sketch element like floors and roofs, it will go to the edit element where we can edit the boundary. So let's try the default. Ito yung default. May value siya na family, edit family and then sketch edit element. What that does is that kapag ka nag-double click tayo ng, for example, itong door, it opens the family, right? So ito yung usual talaga na nangyayari. And then if I double click, let's enable the select by face. If I double click the floor, it will open the edit boundary so that I can edit the boundary of the floor. No, so usually kapag ka nasa modeling process pa talaga tayo, wala pa tayo sa sheet gen or we're not editing, we're not in the task of heavy editing. We are in the task of heavy editing pa. Mas what I usually do is that I disable those two para kapag ka sometimes kasi medyo kapag ka malaki na yung file natin, lag na. So sometimes may accidentally na double click ka and then nag-open siya ng other family editor, it will load, no? May loading yan. So tatagal minsan yung loading and then if you close that, may loading na naman, no? So it adds time to your task. And also sometimes frustration, no? So by default, what I do is that I go to options and then user interface. I go to double click options. I choose to do nothing, no? When I double click the family, it will do nothing and then In the sketch also, it will do nothing. Okay, so now if I double click the door, it will do nothing. And then if I double click the floor, it will do nothing. Now, how about if we want to edit talaga the floor? So if we click on that, that's the time. If you want to edit the boundary, you can just go to the ribbon, then click the edit boundary. And here you can edit the boundary. So at least you're safe, no? So if you intend talaga to edit the floor, you can click the floor and then edit boundary. Same to the door, no? Any door, no? So for example, click on this. We can double click. If we intend to edit this door, we click on that and then we go to edit family. Okay, so from here you can edit the door and then you can load it back to the project. Okay. So that's it. That's for the selection tool in Revit. I hope may natutunan kayo, and if you like this video, please like in the video tutorial, comment if you have comments on the topic, or you want certain topic to be discussed in the future videos, and paki-click na din ng notification bell and subscribe. So see you to the next tutorial. Thank you.